I don't think the keep thing needs to be.
Oh, got it.
Everybody else decided to do it.
Yeah, no, and I,
It
yeah.
doesn't matter. You make a
Okay.
point, but as I leave it that way. Each one is different.
Yeah, well, but
Well, I would say.
I know it's tricky, like, yeah, I would, honestly, it's like one of those, it's almost semantical, like, but it was, yeah, and I feel like, you know, as long as it's somewhere on the front or back of that page, it probably will be just fine.
Does Matt get hold of?
Thank you, Pam, for showing me that, I appreciate that.
Sure, we'll bring it back up in a second.
Yeah, no worries. Oh, you mean so other people can actually read
You
it?
should have said we told him.
Thank you,
No, but he's
Bob.
wonderful.
Going
He's
out and
wonderful.
getting that.
Except that he takes 50-foot
I'm
trees.
sorry, Bob, I tried.
Well, I'm missing one. I left the boys. We're
Last
taking
time I
that
went
one.
to go, I had to call my
When I get back, we're taking that 8. I never leave the boys by themselves.
Let's go in the trash.
Really.
Oh,
He has the
he
buddy.
said.
And he has a slush fund.
That's
So,
what I'm saying.
Well,
yeah,
He might be
yeah.
able to-
I want him to come back to this meeting, stop talking.
That could give you, that could give you the appropriate specs for, okay, what do we say to the art projector? Do you
Oh,
use one? You don't have to.
No.
Have to bring this.
I'm coming back.
I had the
You can
old,
use it at your meetings or anybody else's meetings.
you want me to use that?
yeah, can you,
Yep.
it'll plug in here.
Wait for
Ridiculous.
Great.
It's all technology.
Oh my God, there's another body we haven't seen.
Oh.
See what happens when you
Boys,
have.
lie down, you gotta fit everybody in.
I'm wearing my flamboyant cross the road at night dog collar.
Slide one way or the other. No, I think you're going this way, Ed.
Is anybody coming in?
Yeah, the-
projector.
Projector.
Oh, okay.
Unless you want us to project on you.
No, I don't want that.
I didn't think so.
Yeah, your
Maybe
sweater's
I'll tilt.
beautiful.
I'll tilt this way, right?
No, just sit next to Ed.
Ready?
Ed, move down.
Yeah, I'm trying
Well,
to.
he's got a lot
Got a lot of
of
stuff.
chair.
Well, he can move, he's capable.
Okay.
He's doing shimmy.
He's shimmying.
Shimmy,
Yeah, he shimmies well.
Here, where'd you get
Oh
your
my
sweater?
goodness, you can see Bubs.
Beautiful.
Oh, look at that.
Good.
No
Lord.
kidding.
From years ago. I gave it to my mother-in-law. And when you clean out her
The old laptop. Always good to get, yep, always good to
So I
get
got a
what you
lot,
like.
it's a lot of sweaters I've given her over the years.
It's better, though. It's not brilliant, but it's better.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's not the projector, it's the laptop.
You wrote it on pink.
I bought the old laptop so it could connect to the projector.
Yeah, just jiggle the cord on both ends. See?
Oh,
Yeah,
see, this is why we
Better
keep
in the wires
Look
and
at
they crack over time, sorry, just happens all the
Ed,
time.
this is why we have Ed. He's brilliant.
This, I know, I feel like I'm in like
Keep
a.
wiggling.
No,
Bubs.
this-
That's right.
this guy-
Right, stop it.
It has to be kind of jiggle
Robert.
right.
Stop,
I think it's the Katie's.
stop,
What about,
stop.
No, this is fine.
will this work?
Yeah, just stop. Stop playing with it. It's perfect.
Oh,
They well
Nobody touched the table.
I'd be surprised if we came up with a bad day.
Yeah, oh, it's starting.
Okay.
wow.
Okay,
Let's start the meeting.
Yeah.
Good job.
Dan has a bad.
I move we approve Ken's minutes.
Did we?
No, I just moved it. We need a second.
I would second that.
Have you opened the meeting then?
Yes, all those
Those
in
were great
favor.
minutes for. Aye.
Aye. That's done, Robert. Now what do you?
I'm abstaining, Kevin.
Okay, good.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Oh, he's just being a pain in the ass.
I
But you had the chance to review.
I did. But I can't vouch for their accuracy.
Oh, dear God.
Well written.
They were well written.
They were very well written.
Everything Ken does is well written. All right, Robert, the floor is yours.
Okay, review the one-page chapters, bring those in.
Here's housing done.
Huh?
Oh, the one pagers? Yeah. This is housing right here.
Yeah, okay.
So this is the other, you guys had asked me to make an other key point section, so I modeled it slightly off of the one for municipal services. Obviously, it had a different flavor to it, so I talked more about the questions that the things we would be considering. I thought it was important to mention the town survey result of the preservation of open space and farms was one of the highest priorities, but I just made it a high priority. But that we, as the master planning steering committee, believed that while we're addressing the needs to diversify our housing stock, that we are giving priority to solutions that are in harmony with maintaining Bolton's rural character. So that was my ending sentence because I felt that was the message we wanted to give to folks.
That's it.
Okay. So feel free if you think anything else. It was just the things we had talked about. How will this type of development affect the natural and historic resources of the site? What are the limitations due to well and septic requirements? How will it affect traffic? How will it affect municipal services? How will it affect the number of school-age children? So basically putting the bug in their ear that these are all the factors that go into considerations that are part of these goals. Bob has. Oh, okay. You look like you were going to say something.
It's good.
Could one possibly read that last sentence as the bourgeoisie,
One could.
as a code?
They could.
I don't know.
I don't really like the last sentence either. If it would
The
say,
rural harmony with rural character. I don't know what that means.
So up above where it says preservation of open space and farms are high priority for Bolton residents, that was a
Right.
question direct from the town survey.
Yeah, that's fine.
And so that, because that came in with such high importance, twice it came in, once as an option to click, and then once where it said, do you have anything to add? There was still a very high 70-something% that took it upon themselves in their own words to say, this is important to us. And so that was my rationale, and I can see absolutely what you're saying, though,
So
that like, it
What you're
may,
talking about there is maintaining an agricultural focus or an agricultural, maintaining agricultural,
getting the word agriculture.
rather than rural
Just
character, which
That are in harmony with
And
the
increasingly, you're not gonna have
code word.
agricultural zones. It just isn't gonna happen for us.
but
But rural makes a little more sense.
yeah, but rural is, as I said, also could easily be misunderstood.
How?
We can.
As don't let those dark folks in, or
no.
don't have duplexes. Duplexes are not rural.
We shouldn't apologize for living here. That's
No.
kind of what we're doing. We moved here for a reason. And I'm sorry, maybe we want to see people that are similar to us. Maybe a lot of people had that motivation.
But
I don't want to
I don't
endorse
think
that,
that's
so I'm
true.
sorry. I like Bolton. You know, it's got a rural character. It's very charming. To some extent, rural, charming, I mean, that's,
No,
When it comes
when it
together.
gets to multifamily residences, things like that, we're in the process right now of bringing in
right.
Randall Aaron to talk about doing development in a way that actually has highly concentrated multifamily to save the rural character of the rest of
Okay,
the.
that's that great book that you
Yeah,
were
yeah,
recommending to us
yeah.
way
Rural
back
lifestyle.
when, which,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gone
which I
a lot
love.
further since then.
yeah, all right.
the way,
how about you just say priority can be given? I mean,
Okay.
it just sounds like you're saying,
And
well,
Sure.
we agree that we need multifamily housing, but we really want to keep our rural character. I mean, it sounds like there's
Or
a,
should.
Should. How about should? Alright.
just make it sound more like,
Not so bossy.
like,
Okay.
we really do stand behind the need for this housing, no matter what. And that, yes, everyone's always gonna say, oh, it's not rural, but you can prioritize by objective
Yeah,
number
but-
2.
yeah, but go to Meadow Road and say that, okay?
You don't want to go.
Because they destroyed an entire hillside for 2 houses or whatever the hell
Right,
it is.
right.
And they destroyed the rural character of the
Yep,
road
yep.
and especially of that hillside.
Yep.
And that is more important than housing, I'm sorry.
Century
And I'm not saying that because it happens to be the street I live
78%
on.
of the
It's just the
residents
worst
will
thing
agree
I've
with
seen
you.
in town.
But I think it's
It's like
not an
century
either or.
No, it
That's
is.
right.
It's right, it's not either or.
It's not either or. You can do both if you have intelligent planning and a thoughtful way of laying things out. And the planning board right now is looking at that very seriously.
Yeah.
So maybe can is maybe the best word,
Yeah,
because we know that it's true that you can accommodate
Yeah.
both, the
Ah.
need for diverse.
Mhm.
So priority
Yeah.
can,
Instead of
Can.
must, but can. Yes.
Okay.
I like that,
Okay.
yeah.
But I think, I do understand, Sharon, how some people perceive discussions of rural character to be anti-development, and
Yeah.
that's not true. It's
Yeah.
just the way you do it.
Right. But I think saying can, actually, that introduces that and.
Okay.
So you're happy now?
settle?
And there needs to be a comma, I think that's what that blue line
Oh,
says.
yes, exactly.
Yeah. That's my own little typo right there.
No.
Yeah, sorry, not that
There you
one, up above.
There you go.
All right,
And then
well
back
done.
up to the top though, I just wanna make sure you guys see this one too. Thank you so much, Pam. I also added the housing choice community. Ken had pointed out that folks might not know what that is, so, just that it's a community, how we achieve it, by producing certain amounts of, and types of new housing. And then I think it was important to mention that we get preferred access to many state grants and capital funding programs because of it, because of that status.
What's the 318 after Foster?
That's the number of units that were built under that bylaw
Oh,
in our
okay.
town, but it needs to be updated, which is why it's still red.
Okay.
It was, I had found that number, when I did the original presentation.
No, I just thought it was a link on somewhere.
Oh, no,
Okay.
nothing so interesting.
Okay, we approve it?
Nice job.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
What's next?
Well done.
We didn't change anything to water sewer.
No,
I just formatted it so it's the same.
thank you.
But I went through all 3 pages because they didn't align to our new goals and objectives that Olivia had just revised pretty, right before our meeting.
Right.
So I just changed them all so they were consistent
Would
with.
you like me to turn up the heat? Are you cold?
No, I'm fine.
I'm gonna
I
change.
just had some formatting when I put it in Google, but it looks fine in Word. I don't know what's.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Next?
And then municipal services, same thing. They didn't carry the formatting over, right?
I can't read that.
It was brilliantly done by Brian.
My page is high.
Okay.
I didn't get some of those minutes.
One question I had, because I wasn't at the last meeting, so it sounds like right before the last meeting, there were some changes in the goals for water and sewer. Were there changes in the goals for municipal services and facilities that need to be incorporated here? Do you remember?
I did the balls to make them
Oh,
consistent.
thank
Yeah,
you, amazing.
to the degree.
Can you read it?
Okay, a multi-purpose community gathering space. Yahoo!
Yahoo or
Oh,
Yahoo?
Yahoo!
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Is there any way we can say about the multi-purpose community gathering space? Encourage
How do you,
cooperating with other towns.
We had that in the original, we have
Might
that
be in the action items.
in the action items. It says, that's one of the things it says. I will read it to you if I can find it.
I don't know about you, but I just feel like it's so far, you know, if we're getting a new school, this community gathering space is very difficult to tackle. And yet
We've
other
got so much
towns
money,
around
yeah.
us, you know, have
Yeah,
good
Some of them do,
good
some of them don't have.
facilities that are coming along and we,
Reach out to neighboring municipalities, collaborate on shared community space and joint programming. To make you happy? Okay, that's in there.
Although it's way too late to have a conversation, in commuting back and forth across central New York State, one of the things that is very, very interesting is the number of towns that have community high schools, community centers, and administrative offices of the town all in the same building. And all of them are new. And we just didn't think that one through. I'm convinced. Because we can talk about this, but when it comes to community services and facilities, including next door where you're jammed into no space, we have very few alternatives now.
And why can't we have Emerson School
Well,
in one of its many sections?
Because the kids are in it.
Actually,
It was 22,
You know how much room is in the 22?
3 floors.
No, it really is only 3 rooms.
Okay,
Okay, it's not gonna get you very far. Believe me, I had a book room in one and something else upstairs, I forget. The rooms aren't that big.
and then 52
52 is being used by kids on the first floor.
kids.
What about the public safety building?
The what?
Public safety building.
Yeah, what about it?
Just seems like there's a lot of space in there not.
The fire, the fire is full and they need more space.
Well, you know what, so that's an interesting idea though. The old part where they house the fire trucks right now, eventually that's gonna need to be redone, right? I mean, that's the oldest part of
No,
that
what they
building.
need right now is, you know where the old fire station, they need a building there to handle all their equipment that is now sitting outside.
Right, so that in addition, right? But it's, I know that, correct me if I'm wrong here, but and maybe this is like a 5 or 10 year out project, but is it possible to create something more than just a storage space and new garaging facilities when the need arises? I remember when we put the new police station in, and I said, what a great idea to utilize, what we had there that was still working. I know there's some leaking or something, you guys
There's
know
a
more
lot-
than I
there's a number of
do,
issues.
so the problems, right? So eventually, we're gonna have to do something, the trucks are gonna get bigger, we're gonna need more of them, whatever.
No,
Is that space big enough to accommodate something like that?
No.
I know there's residential
full.
all around it, right?
It's full. And there's not much room in there.
No, but I meant like if we went up,
Yeah,
like if we created,
You went up because
A new-
above the fire station is space, but it's not usable because there's no elevator or something.
The
And the
space
fire station itself, that meeting. room-
above the fire station, they're using for bedrooms, for the EMTs, the paramedics, and the firemen who spend the night.
I feel like
So
there
it
would be some
wouldn't work at
safety
that
issues
time.
sharing a community center with the fire and police station.
No, I'm not talking community center, I'm talking town hall.
What's
Town
what?
hall access, and, there's that meeting room over there, I don't know why we can't have meetings in there.
Well, you can. You can use that, other people, you can use that meeting room, you just have to schedule.
Right, but what she's saying and what I'm thinking is, long-term, that's a site that could be much better developed for space needs for the town.
right, and we have so few of them, like that at least is ours.
Yeah, that, we own it, we can build it out, maybe
Or up.
bigger, better, up, out, back, something to alleviate one of our needs. Either more fire.
There is some room in the back,
Or
but
more,
there is some room in the back, there's.
And I didn't mean to get us off topic,
Yeah.
but it just struck me, like, as we're talking
Not a
about,
lot.
I
Lack of
think what is
space.
up there is an expression of what we need to do. What we need to do really is a huge effort to do an assessment of all the town land,
Yeah,
potential
exactly.
purchase of other land, and doing a projection on what realistically, in the next, frankly, 50 years, is going to be required to manage this town, both
Mhm.
from a physical as well as an administrative perspective. And that's a very big deal, and it's going to take some very thoughtful people, a great deal of time with some consultants to make it happen. So let's make the recommendation and go do it. I don't think you can do any, we can talk about it forever. We all have our opinions, I certainly do.
Is there any desire to recarve the town hall back into its meeting hall that it was once?
Well,
back in
if you're not gonna
1991?
use it for offices, it could obviously be meeting rooms.
I
I
mean,
mean, some of us remember what it was like back then, way back
we had
when,
Grand Hall.
when it was a stage.
Yeah,
that
for the
some
state.
people I know snuck the curtain up because it had asbestos in it.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Anyway,
What, and one more, I'll just mention that I was just at the first anniversary meeting for the Neshoba Neighbors, which, by the way, had 365 actions, calls for help in their first year.
Yeah, did really
It
well.
was pretty amazing.
And it's a
And there was-
huge help.
Right, and there was,
COA.
yeah, and there was a very interesting conversation of the Bolton people who said, okay, we are what, something like 23%, we elders. I think it's 23% of the
22 point
population.
something.
Yes. And we get less than 1% of the budget.
I've talked with the church, they also remain
Yeah.
very open to using the bottom floor of the old nursery as some temporary quarters if
Yeah.
we decide to renovate something.
Yeah,
And-
but it is.
So-
it is
But
something
anyhow,
that-
we've got to have take the overall view and look at
Yeah.
all the buildings. That's,
Right, yeah.
you know.
And for the sake of this conversation, it's consider this.
it's fine.
Right.
That's fine.
And then this whole conversation goes into that.
Okay, it's fine as is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks great.
Express the intent appropriately, and
Are we going to go over the list?
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
a little later, let's do this first.
Okay.
That's it.
Um,
We only have the three.
Now,
We only have-
one of the things we talked about last week was CPA. And I volunteered to write a one-pager on it, which I didn't do, but I sent all of you a one-pager that the state put
Oh, you
out.
added that one?
Yeah, I saw that.
Send me one?
Pardon? I emailed it to all of you. I don't know.
I don't remember getting it, but that's okay.
What, it was a few days ago.
Yeah.
I sent 3 or 4 emails
Yeah, I got it.
with 3 or 4 different things in them.
It was nice visual.
Yeah, it was a
We didn't go
graphic
back
thing.
and
Yeah.
Yeah, but there were two.
I have it right
I
here.
can pull it up.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. But, so I guess the question is that by itself worth something, even if we supplement it with our own spin on the CPA? And I would think that it probably is, but,
No, this is better.
It is, but I think it would be good if there was a little graphic on the number of towns that surround us. Because we are now one of the only towns that does not
Doesn't have it.
participate.
And what they did.
And,
well, and number 1 there says that 196 towns have it, and that's 70% of the population.
right, but I think if
But I
people would
think,
be
yeah, no, I
impressed
agree, I
seeing,
agree. And that'd be fine, and I'd be happy to.
air.
I'd be happy to take the lead on putting that together, but it would be supplementary to this, or it would be specific to Bolton, even though this should be useful to Bolton.
And
So why don't
what
we
shot
do-
it down,
I'll help you read.
I don't know how many years ago, the last time I came to town
Can we-
meeting,
I'll help you redo that page.
was the fact that it didn't have any track record. The state hadn't got any track. Now that the state's got
Yeah.
plenty of track record about funding it.
Okay,
That was the
so,
concern.
can you put together a summary that is a quasi one-page that summarizes what has happened, the people around us, what it has done in terms of development and open, outdoor recreation, open space, and other activities for which it's been used, and then we can use that as a mechanism to do what we really didn't do properly before, and that was to give it the kind of visibility we are with the right groups of people. And
No, I think it had the
So we'd rather
visibility, it
do
just didn't
that
have the
than
track
just
record.
distribute this.
People, they said, we're not sure the state, the biggest thing against it was we don't know
It
the
was
state's
that,
gonna fund it.
But you're gonna get a big pushback on the tax part of it.
Sure.
Because it is somewhere between a 1% and 3% tax increase. Now, all the other money comes from other sources, and you're right that the naysayers said, oh, they'll never come through, and they did.
And they did,
And so
and
we
they got
get
a track
millions of
record.
dollars, and I think it's worth pointing that out as well. But you're still gonna get pushback about the taxes part of it.
Well,
And
especially.
we have to be honest about it, we have to show
It's
where
more
it is.
important that we, as the master plan, endorse a campaign to take it up.
Yeah, then get
We
involved
don't
in
need
the
to
flyer
dictate what the
concept.
answer should be or how the campaign should be run. We need to say, if we are a town looking for new sources of revenue, we need to consider a CPA. We need to appoint people to run the campaign and to notice how the campaigns will run. I mean, I was talking to Robin Kennedy's assistant about how they just did the last campaign in Berlin. And she said exactly how, you have to go talk to the big taxpayers and get them on board. And then you have to do X, 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 Y, 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 Z, Z, Z. So we, as a planning group, just have to feature it as a new source of revenue. Because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for revenue. It's like a 401k. It's
And we've done that, and as the minutes indicated, the discussion last week was to keep it spread out in all the goals and objectives. Not to consolidate it into one place, but to keep it all spread out.
But we're talking about the one pager, Ken, right?
Well, I'm talking about the one pager.
So let's stick on the one pager.
Let's,
All we're key on it.
We're doing it for the sake of looking for revenue more than any other reason.
Based on what Robin Kennedy, his staff has done in Berlin, we hopefully have a roadmap. Let's put that into a single page and use that as backup for a recommendation to go ahead with the committee to do it. Of course, having been involved for some time in senior center and community center, the one thing we lack is a champion who knows what the hell he or she is doing. And that we have a real problem with that in this town. Right?
Yes.
So as you think about what needs to be done, think a whole lot about who's going to do it and who's going to lead it. Right, Brian?
That's a really good point.
Oh, well, I think you need to put it in there whether somebody's gonna pick it up or not.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Well, I agree that it needs to be picked up by somebody, but it also needs unanimous support of the selectmen with a push from them too. So that the depth of it,
But that's the
depth of
process,
it would
Ken.
be to have somebody get on the board that would oppose doing it.
But Ken, that's the
Then you don't
process.
need to bother.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. We
Yeah,
just
I
have to wait.
understand, but I'm just,
Okay,
I
so
don't disagree.
I think a little background and a fairly high-level roadmap would be very useful. One page. Can we do that?
Yep.
Can? Okay. Okay, where are we?
Pam, can you scroll back up to the top real quick? Thank you so much, as long as that's not imposing on anybody else. I didn't quite get the did you know? Thanks.
Now, one of the things I wanted to put in here, but it's, we've run out of space, I'm going to stay with the page, is there are a number of excellent reports that have been produced by the town that absolutely address this. And I was very tempted, and I have them all, I'm very tempted just to list them.
Sure.
And see-
Well, the other one later, that's what this is, exactly what it's for.
Unfortunately, if I keep the rest of it, I go like in the deep into 2 pages.
I did the
That's
same
okay.
thing.
All the rest of it went to 2 pages.
Yep.
So you're okay.
No, they're all in one.
They're all in
No,
one.
not mine.
Yeah,
No, they're not.
I formatted this the way it is.
You're
Let's
now
not
on
debate
one?
that.
Wow.
You've been
But it must be
strong.
super small type font though.
It's 11.
You've
I
been
didn't think
shrunk.
that-
It's
I
okay. Don't
Okay.
take it
Oh,
seriously.
so, but with including so this is when I printed it out. I got this, but I had all this on the back.
Yeah, but look at all the spacing and high margins on the top and bottom. And
Okay, so you
You've been-
were
I
able
took
to get
nothing out.
that.
I promise.
Dang, girl.
You've been
All
strong,
right.
except the
Oh,
fact.
no, that's a beautiful thing.
You've
Because that
been
was
strong.
that was what was bothering me, was like, what goes on the back of it? How do I, thank you for doing that. I didn't realize,
Okay, so
sorry.
I will do my best to reduce this down as close to 1 page and include 3 to 5 of the most significant documents that the town has produced. And there are actually a bunch more than that.
Are we talking here about this particular?
Yes.
This is what brought me here, because I looked at the information that I had, and I realized that the committee had provided in our aspirations goals thing a number of items, and what's missing here is I'm trying to get this down to less than a half hour talk. What's missing here is the state requirement for housing, for how the town needs to participate in the reduction of greenhouse
You're
gases.
talking about the stretch code?
So this is the stretch code. So we're talking here about the stretch code. And I have not seen this page, so I don't know if the stretch code is in here. But what I saw in something earlier that was printed out, we had Rebecca's kind of her approach, which is kind of take care of the wetlands and the green spaces that we have, but it had nothing to do with making housing requirements, you know, in what various towns are doing at this point in order to meet the state goals, is making the requirement that new buildings meet this new goal of energy efficiency.
Thought
And
it was
that's
in
one
the
of- that's one of-
existing conditions report?
Pardon?
I thought it was in the existing conditions report, but I'll check. and make
Okay,
sure.
I didn't see it,
Okay,
and I became alarmed because I know that when the committee last met, we talked about Rebecca's part of that, and then also talked about the whole thing about what the state is asking of various towns.
Okay, we can put
towns
that
to do.
in goal 2, objective under that. Actually, that is, if I remember correctly, in our overall document.
let me see.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it is.
So we can take.
Okay, energy and what, yeah, that's it. Well, it's-
It's kind of in
Can I
goal
see
1
it?
too, that goal number 1, I think.
You meant this, right?
Yeah, go down to 9. It's at the very end.
Yeah, just recently.
There we go.
Okay, where are we? Resilient
Oh,
landscapes are not
No,
what I'm talking
no,
about.
no.
Yeah, I know.
That's just part of it. Have you read through the whole thing?
I haven't seen, I just saw it this afternoon, so this.
No, I mean
No.
this document.
No,
Oh, well, that's
You
definitely.
need to read that
You
first,
need to read that first.
and then don't,
Okay.
don't get concerned, we'll just deal with it.
Because the level of detail in here,
It's
the
very different.
specificity is much higher than
Yeah,
our little one-pagers.
yeah, so you need,
okay,
it's this.
so, and is in there,
Yes, the
changing building requirements?
Yep.
But you'll see it, but if you
Okay.
don't, then you
Okay.
go see
You
our,
go, oh, wait, you can actually, trust me, it's there.
yeah, no, why don't we let you read the whole thing before
Okay.
you get
But
into
Sharon, there's
discussion?
no reason I can't insert literally 5 words and make that occur.
Okay,
Right?
Yeah.
So I'll do that.
So it's not as if it's not gonna happen, but
Okay.
read through it, because there may be other things that you want to comment on.
okay,
And then
all right.
put them all
I'll-
together
Yeah.
and call Robert.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because this was like the big thing that we were focusing on, and I didn't see it, and I went,
Is it 9.2.1 that you think is incorporating the stretch? The,
State regulations.
so it says,
But it doesn't specifically say the
It
stretch
says
of them.
implement guidelines for new development requiring energy efficiency and water conservation. I would think those guidelines are sort of referring generally to things like the stretch code, right?
Yeah, but if I recall correctly, it does say the state.
Yeah, up above there, work toward achieving the state's clean energy. and-
Right,
So those guidelines,
oh,
I mean,
let Sharon read through it though, and then come back and comment.
There's a lot of detail.
Because there's a lot of detail, and she may think of something else.
okay.
So give her the time to do it, and not
So
just sort of off the cuff.
Tell me where it will be.
Talk to them, I'm not the computer, I'm the nerd.
It's up on,
I can send you a link.
Send
Okay.
Sharon a link, that would be good. But then she can have the time to review it,
Yeah.
and then you can comment. It's probably the best. What's next, Robert?
okay, we're gonna do our working session, go through the mother documents.
The mother, do you want to share mother with me?
Mother?
Mother.
before
It'll
you
be up there.
Maybe on the screen.
Oh, you can look at it on the screen, I just don't.
Can I suggest a process point, which I picked up by watching a recent school committee thing? I don't know if we want to, like, agree on a time by which we're aiming to be done, and then if we hit that time, we have to go around and make sure we're okay to continue.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that okay?
Before he starts to the,
Did you see when we adjourned last
I
time?
did until 11 o'clock last time.
No, I think we met.
I like that
we met-
idea.
We met for 2 hours and 45 minutes last time.
Yeah, but we've been through the
More
work,
than we
this,
needed.
I feel a lot more prepared this time though. I got like 5
and we
minutes.
don't have as much, I mean, everything, every line we cracked.
So why don't we do a check-in at 8:30?
Okay, you're in charge of checking it.
I'm gonna set a little time.
Yeah, well,
I
I
like
think
it,
you can look at your phone and tell me when it's
Works for
8:30.
me.
All right,
Giving ourselves-
land use, is that, do we start on land use? Is that where we are? I can't see that far, that's why I have it in front of me.
That's it. And what?
Now, are there any, I guess the question is, is there anything that's been added since the last meeting?
I only made yes,
So
the
this is
park,
just-
no, the parks you and Ed added, I put that
yeah,
in this
right.
document, yep. Other than that, it was just a reflection of discussion at our last meeting.
You guys didn't read this before the meeting?
I didn't have a chance.
Do you want me to scroll to those new goals, because they are new goals in the recreation?
Well, eventually, but
Okay.
I was only raising the question because if everybody's comfortable with land use from last week and there hasn't been any change, then you could go to the next one. So we would have to read each line or whatever, but it doesn't matter.
May I ask a question from my point of ignorance here? When we're talking about preserved agricultural land, one of the big issues that Harvard has already talked about is not just preserving agricultural lands, but helping the farmers in the area to adjust to climate change. For example, all the apple trees that we have now are no longer going to be appropriate for the weather. And what we had, the problem that we had with the destruction of the whole peach crop. And so what they are working on is working with for example, all the apple growers of bringing in the species that are now growing in Virginia, which by the time they're ready to produce,
But they're already
the
doing that.
climate, yeah.
They're already doing that. They've
That's,
dug up
in my
huge,
climate change reg, that is a line in it.
Okay.
Bringing species,
Yeah.
native species in America
Right.
that grow in warm.
yeah, but you're right, they're starting to do it. They've dug up a lot of orchards. and put it in.
But again, if
But-
you go
but-
back, and I would be surprised, unbelievably surprised, if 5% of the residents in Bolton have read the Apple Country Report,
Oh,
which addresses a huge amount of that.
Yeah.
And that I will reference.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, a huge amount of work is done, including not only the developable land, but the soil under it.
May I ask a question on this section? On 1.2.2, the action says, consider applying the phosphorus to all developments that are 15 plus acres in sizes. Isn't our major residential development bylaw covering that already? I think it requires any major residential development, and I think it specifies the acreage. I don't remember if it was 15 or not. But to
How you can develop it. You
It
can use
requires it.
phosphorus. Now, what has happened is that as a result of the advantages of excluding wetlands, which is cute because that goes into the open space,
right,
that virtually, well, we went through with the planning board a couple of nights ago, virtually everything that's been done in the last 5 years has been done by phosphor because it's preferable to developers. So, yeah, although it's not stated as such.
only so in the major residential development bylaw,
Mhm.
they have to supply the planning board with an alternative phosphorus plan.
That's right.
And then that's what they've gone with.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So
And it's-
meaning this
it's,
is
you
just
know,
like, it's gonna apply to everybody across the board.
But think about it. I mean, right now, that's under serious consideration.
Yeah, no, I mean, it
Number
makes
of
sense.
towns
I just wanna make sure it wasn't
that
redundant, like we weren't already
The
doing
way
it.
we develop, you've got to develop it with,
Okay.
you know, with super phosphorus, I guess I could describe it as.
Yeah, that's, I souped up for a phosphorus, remember?
We were also
I get
talking
you
about reducing the minimum lot size.
Yeah, so that you have much more concentrated housing, multifamily housing, et
And
cetera.
put 33% up to
I
like
mean, the
50.
minimum total acreage.
Yeah, I like that. I think we were shortchanging ourselves on that. Thank you, that was it on that section for me.
I wish there was some way we could require, can we require affordable housing? We can't, can we
We do.
suggest it? I mean,
Just wait, we're getting to housing, we're getting to housing, that's next.
We are there,
We're up
Wait till we
there.
get to housing.
I mean.
Hold that thought.
These monster houses, good God,
Hold that thought.
okay.
When we get to housing.
Three Americans.
So should we do like a going, gone on comments or questions on land use?
Going, gone. Gone. Housing.
Okay.
I have a lot to say about housing, but I want to make sure other people have a chance to say.
No, well, actually, what I was gonna say is, most of my comments are around the things that I spent more time looking at throughout the course, so I would actually like be interested, sorry.
Bless you.
He'd defer to you.
I'd be interested in hearing yours, because I feel like you're the subject matter expert on housing.
You did good roof.
That's a scary term, but I did have some comments that I would love to share with you and see where you guys want to go with it. I will begin if you're ready. Okay. On action 2.1.1, I suggest that we combine that with 2.1.3. And I will tell you what I'm thinking for 2.1.3 first, so you can kind of see how they would go together. 2.1.1 says review viability of the sale of town parcels to private housing developers to build affordable units. 2.1.3, my proposal to change it is seek a nonprofit partner or private housing developers to build affordable units on, instead of specific lots, town-owned lots, period. And that just kind of covers all of town-owned land, potential lots, private, nonprofit, doesn't matter, we're seeking that out.
That's good.
Yeah? All right.
Nicely done.
You want me to say it again, Pam? You got it?
I got it, if you want to
Thank
take a
you.
look.
Well, you might want to change it to plural, affordable units. And you might want to say appropriate or designated town-owned lots, because you're not talking about all town-owned lots.
How many town-owned lots do we have?
We have a lot.
Do we?
Yeah. And apparently we
Okay,
have
yeah.
a new one, abutting.
Rather than have it be singular,
Did you know that?
and not an affordable unit, but affordable unit.
And it's
That
not
would be a
available.
great place for a
It's been sitting there for
community
years.
center.
Affordable units.
Where are the
Yes,
town-owned
yeah.
lots?
What?
Town-owned lots?
They're all,
That's for the
yeah, tax taking.
Oh, tax taking lots, okay, now I understand.
Now he's.
Brian, calm down.
Because it's ours. So it's not on their lot because we own
I like
it.
that, yeah.
So we own it, it's not ours.
Awesome.
But it doesn't matter if he lost it.
Just as a super quick point on what I think is now 2.1.1, investigate amending 2 inclusionary housing requirements. Does the 2 belong there?
No.
Okay. Moving on. 2.1.5 says to implement the Community Preservation Act, and I'm thinking it should read adopt, because we haven't adopted yet, so we can't
Yeah, it would be good
implement.
to adopt it before you implement it.
So I would just suggest changing that.
Oh, it's probably, the numbering's been changed, so it's 2.1.4.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you,
Okay.
yep, thank you, that was
But adopt seems like a reasonable
on
requirement.
the CPA one.
Yeah, and that's, I guess that's the issue that I had last week about the CPA being spread around, is that it should be worded the same way every place. And in some places, implement is not the right word, in my opinion.
Well, when you haven't got it yet, so you can't implement something you don't have.
Exactly, so I think we need to be consistent in
Right.
Maybe adopt is the correct
Adopt or pursue.
term, I don't know.
Pursue adoption.
Pursue adoption of.
That works.
Nice.
Love it, yeah.
I'm also interested in, when I read affordable housing units, when our town planner at the time mentioned that an affordable housing unit in Bolton was $400,000. And I burst out laughing thinking, and what poor person do you know can afford that? So how are we defining affordable units? Does that mean just slightly less naughty than the rest of us?
There's like a
There's a
pretty
definition of it.
complicated
Yeah.
formula, and it has to do with the fact, part of the reason, because we're in technically Middlesex County, or partially, like, there's,
No, we're treated as though we're in Middlesex, even though we're in Worcester.
right,
Worcester County.
yeah,
Right.
so we have a higher threshold than, like, if you were in Brookfield, their number was lower.
But, you know,
But
getting,
still,
But we can't,
We
We
can.
can't deal with
It's
that,
like a
right?
Based on-
federal.
So actually, that
okay.
leads me to my next change, if I can be so bold.
Capital A.
Or suggestion, it's a suggestion, only because other master plans do this, and I think our last one did this. Just an idea, you guys let me know what you think. In this first section here, to add an action that says to support the existing goals and objectives defined in Bolton's March 1st to 2021 Housing Production Plan. I don't know if that is redundant or not something that we want to add, but it's the idea that it's referring in this section, which is our diversifying housing stock, which touches on the affordable, certainly, that whole plan is about affordability initiatives. Do we want to point this document towards it in an actionable form? Like, I don't know.
I
think
think
that's
that's
As long as we explain more or less what it is.
Say again, I'm sorry. I heard you and Bob at the same time.
right,
You just need to explain what it is. We don't want to just say, implement what was passed in 2021, because then somebody is going to have to go and look it up. So you got to tell them what it is. You can tell them that it was passed in 2021, but you got to say what it is.
Right, so it would, I think, tell me if this is what you mean. The objectives that were defined in, literally, it's the housing production plan of Bolton, March 1st, adopted in March of 2021. So it's defining,
But what was
But
it?
you have to say what that
The
is.
question is what it is. You got to say what it is.
Not
You
just,
can
not
develop
just
the
the
source,
plan.
but you got to say what
Isn't
it
it
is.
in the title?
No.
I don't get the
Yeah.
question, I'm so sorry.
I think the disconnect is that you're acknowledging that there's actually multiple goals and objectives in the housing production plan that you want to incorporate by reference.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're saying.
Pull
we
them
should
out.
just Pull them out.
Got it,
Put them right in.
got it.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification.
I think.
Okay, so maybe we don't,
No, I think that's good, but now I'm thinking about climate change and a number of other things for which there are reports that also have,
Right.
a whole series of
and are we opening
recommendations.
up a can of
And
worms?
so,
Yeah, there is a,
You know, we have to be
Well,
careful.
that's fair, I get
Well,
that.
But don't we want to be
But I
as
think-
informative as possible and not make people guess?
but the question is, are they gonna read it all?
Pam, what were you going to say?
If
The
it goes on
document's
and on.
referenced multiple times already, so do we have to really pull the goals and objectives and put it back?
It is referenced in here?
It's under the it's gonna be under the chapter narrative.
Oh,
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Because
maybe it just belongs there then, in the sense that in the
I don't think it
narrative part,
hurts
we're
to have an
saying.
action to refer to the plan and
Okay.
But I wouldn't
implementing it.
divide it.
I don't know.
It's not, maybe it's not an action though,
Sharon,
you know.
could you send the candy down this way?
Is it that bad, Ken?
We're trying to keep Pam going.
All right, I don't want to get hung up on it, I honestly don't care either way, I noticed that it was in other plans and I wasn't sure if it was something that we felt necessary. I'm fine with it either way, honestly, I'm ambivalent, it was just something I wanted to make sure I ran by you guys in case there was somebody that said, oh yeah, that should definitely be in there, you know?
the one thing throughout housing, when you talk about affordable housing that concerns me is that we all talk about capital A affordable as opposed to lowercase a affordable. The reason that $1.3 billion super houses are being built on Main Street right now is because of the price of land. Right? So the way to deal with that is to lower the price of land. Probably not going to happen. The way to do it is to arrange things so that a developer would be able to build housing in a more concentrated way, therefore the land would cost less, and they would be able to build smaller houses, but do it in a way that maintains the huge amount of open space. So a combination of a super phosphate with smaller lots for building and consequently more lowercase a affordable housing is the way to go. I think we need to be
Which I think we
careful
are
about-
fitting in all of those.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so that's fine. Well, moving on then.
But are we making that clear so that you don't have to speak up
I
at every?
think it is in 2.2.3, investigate allowing higher density on smaller lots.
Yep.
And I was going to add to that, configured to preserve open space and maintain, I don't know if you like it, rural character or rural
Well,
appearance.
yeah,
But do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's the goal of,
but don't you want to throw affordable housing into there?
Okay, yes,
Allow a higher density and more affordable housing?
not if the bullet stays there, because that bullet is going towards new housing development occurring harmoniously with the town's character.
Yeah,
So,
well,
I don't know how
But you-
affordability falls under, I think affordability falls in the first one. That diversity and of housing stock and affordable housing options, so maybe that bullet moves up to the first goal.
because otherwise it looks like big houses on smaller lots.
no, we want smaller houses on
And
small.
bigger.
Right, so you want smaller houses. Right,
Yeah.
Capitalism says people want big house, they want a big house. So
Yeah, but,
should
but,
they move to another place is the question, I guess.
yeah, they've moved to another place,
So,
right? I mean, do we only want
Yeah.
those people around
Well,
us?
not that we
2.2.3
want them, it's just
maybe
We already
we
have
want
enough
them.
big houses.
do you see what I mean?
I'm sorry.
The 2.2.3, the investigate allowing higher density on smaller lots. The reason I added to configure to preserve open space and maintain rural appearance is because it fell under that second bullet objective of ensuring new housing development that occurs, like the harmoniously character, growth trajectory, that kind of thing. Whereas if we want to focus that idea on affordability, then we could add to it, configured to, configured to maintain affordability, I don't know, or,
It isn't,
I
can
think
bring it up.
I think we gotta be careful about 223 without adding the proviso that we're not gonna turn this into a Lebanon, New Jersey and Bolton. We are gonna preserve open space by allowing smaller lots on a portion of a development. So it gets back to the super phosphate, we're gonna have 80% of a subdivision area in open space and 20% of it in much smaller
Right.
lots. So I think we've got to express the balance.
and that makes sense. Everything you just said makes sense in that bullet under that goal,
Okay.
Comma, meeting all sewer and water requirements.
of course.
It's great to have super phosphate.
I just didn't see, I
Let's
think.
be careful what we're asking for, folks.
Well, and that's,
Oh, I hear
that will go, and again, without getting into the detail,
you. It's being
we'll start
investigated.
looking about open space and environmental development, working it upside down instead of coming in and doing what we do, which is, okay, how many lots can you get onto a piece of property using our guidelines, acre and a half, 2 acre, 4.5 back lot, et cetera, et cetera. And then figure out how you're gonna do a phosphate.
Push it down.
The way that intelligent land planners are working now, and it's going on all over the place, is take a look at a piece of land, figure out what that land is environmentally, what the limitations are from view, soil, you name it, and then figure out where you're going to put high-density housing that can accommodate water and sewer. And accommodations have to be made, such as having common wells, that gets into
Common
public water
septics
supplies, and common septics, which is allowed now.
So,
So, but
what would
that's a
you call
whole.
that? Smart development, or what's the catchword that Randall Arndt uses? Because I'm thinking maybe that's what we say, allow higher density housing on smaller lots through the blah, blah, blah process.
Yeah, and I can't remember it.
But
Let him
something,
think- let him
because if
think
you
about
just
it.
let it sit there, I think it
I also-
doesn't fit in that, but that's,
What is Pam?
I also remember Mary saying, why wouldn't we allow a duplex on a lot, so that,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you allow something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would that fit under that too? And it might not necessarily have to be associated with a phosphorus or anything, it might just be a simple zone change in certain areas. I think it's fine the way it reads.
I thought all these things were regulated by our classic water and sewer notions.
okay.
Now, are they still valid?
Let me tell you, well, that's
a good
going to
question,
disappear.
right?
I mean,
Is that right?
DEP is very unhappy about not just concentrations of well, but now because of PFAS and a lot of other things, they're saying the only way to have a safe water supply is to have a controlled and monitored water supply, and therefore you need common water supplies. And if they had their way, Main Street would now be all run on a public water supply. So that the same thing is true of sewers. What you're putting into your septic system is not controlled. But I don't want to get into that in detail, but our feeling that, boy, we need big lots because of wells and septic systems. Doesn't fly anymore, folks.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, we gotta
cool,
move
yeah,
on.
we're moving on.
So we're not changing that.
Sounds like we're not changing that. We're
Okay.
gonna leave it. Okay,
Are duplexes already in here someplace?
I think it falls with under that general.
hold on, we're getting to them, they're coming down, we're getting to the
Wait, okay.
multi-generational, next page.
227.
So, okay, so this one I just, 2.2.5, I think it just needs to be reworded a little bit to make more sense. Currently, I think it says identify priority development areas and expand the existing within the multi-use village overlay district for housing and commercial. So my proposal is identify priority development areas in which to expand the existing mixed-use village overlay district, period. Just to clean it up.
You wanna take out for housing and commercial?
Because it's understood, it's, the mixed-use village overlay is that, the one pager has a link to it.
It's fine.
Yeah,
It
the
Just
only,
cleans it up.
the only problem that I think
Okay.
that is that the zoning district exists now. And I think the way it was originally written was to consider more places to have that same kind of zoning. And this doesn't do that, which is okay, but that's the difference in what you've proposed. Seems to me takes out the idea of having more of those types of districts.
Oh, I,
Because you said to expand the existing
But
overlay district.
identify area, I think, I assumed that meant identify other.
It did, but if you change it to what she's
in
got,
which two? Is that what's the?
then that's expanding
Just one.
that's expanding the existing
Yeah.
district.
So just take out it.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Oh, I see.
Identify the priority development, identify priority, to expand,
Identify priority development areas and expand mixed-use village overlay
expand
district.
is the word we have to move or change.
Say
Like
consider,
add,
consider additional,
yeah, consider additional, I love it.
consider additional mixed-use overlay
Consider
districts.
additional
Then that
mixed-use village
accomplishes-
overlay districts, or,
Districts, that's what that accomplishes what you're talking about.
Yep.
I believe.
you're right.
Just get out the existing.
I think you could take out priority development and just say, identify areas in which to consider whatever it is.
And then pluralize district.
Additional mixed use.
Well,
overlay district.
Districts.
Yeah, with an S after district.
And get rid of the word and. Do you see the word and?
Yeah, identify areas in which, or, you don't need.
No.
Keep going. Yep, sorry.
Okay,
Immediately after,
Additional mixed use.
225.
225, get
Well,
rid of
what's
the
going
and.
on?
Just to take out in,
225, take out,
just to take
take out
out
the
in
word
which
and.
It says,
identify areas and consider.
just get rid of the end.
Identify areas to consider.
In which to consider, or whatever, yeah, that,
That's fine.
Wait, did,
Yes,
I'm
that's it.
confused about 225 and 226, they're saying that, that's what I'm confused.
well, that's spec,
I would get rid of
Specifies.
226.
yeah, it's
225
almost
says
redundant, but commercial zones is like, it's understood, we're
225, get rid of 6.
Great.
Excellent.
awesome.
Love it.
So
Wow.
looking down at objective, that's objective, which kind of, to me, is an outlier because it only has one action under it. My thought here, and you guys can tell me this is not a good idea, is to take action 227 and move it down into the next objective, encourage multi-generational living options. And then just get rid of that objective of seeking to accommodate rental housing in areas that have the capacity to support traffic and infrastructure. Because frankly, we just did that with 229 units of housing. So to
Yeah.
me, it seems,
Is that enough?
I think that's fine.
Yeah, I agree. Plus,
so I like the idea of considering, continuing to consider multifamily zone districts, which I think is what Sharon was asking about earlier. Yeah, that just seemed to, and then 227 becomes something else down here.
Aren't we currently apartment on the third floor on a house, so
We're not,
we want to, those generations can keep living in the same place?
yeah,
But
well, is it there to
is that what we
take,
want?
okay. I got lost of what we just erased it,
Oh,
so.
All right, so to continue on, but
Multi-generational living options.
yeah, this is the one I
Okay,
think is
there you
gonna, I think this will
Okay.
resonate, but tell me if it doesn't.
Okay.
So here, I'm not quite sure where this title came from, create additional housing opportunities. To me, the word multi-generational, which I know is in the objective, seems to want to go up there because all of these actions really talk about multi-generational options. Again, this is, I don't want to get tied up in semantics. When I did a first look at this, with the objective and the goals seemed very close together in what they were identifying. So, create multi-generational housing opportunities in town would be my proposal for the goal. And my objective proposal would be encourage new multi-generational living options. And I don't know if it's that simple to fix, but it just seemed redundant.
I get what you're saying, my only.
Yeah, please.
like, the only issue is that, like, I look at 2.3.5 about starter homes.
Oh, I have that taken out.
Okay.
But yes, yeah,
So I was
no,
gonna say, that's not clearly multi-generational, but I
exactly.
think all the other ones.
I agree. No, I agree. And honestly, like even, so I looked at 2.3.5, so the very last action, and the re-examine, the end part of that, not the starter homes, but the re-examining housing density, dimensional requirements to support multifamily and senior housing, that could have been in any one of these three goals. So that it stays here is fine, but it kind of applies to all of the goals. But in 2.3.5, my proposal there is also redundant to 2.2.1, which is cottage style. My thought there in 2.2.1 was to add cottage style and starter homes, or cottage style, comma, starter homes, because they're almost one and the same. And again,
I know a lot of seniors that like one thing.
well, it's the same with 2.3.1, why are you only mentioning opportunities for seniors? Why aren't you saying additional housing opportunities for seniors or starter families or something, or starter, I mean,
Yeah,
it can be
Yeah.
I
on
suppose
very
it's
level.
a spectrum, it really is.
yeah, it is. I agree. And so
did we
please
identify
chime
a
in,
need
this
for
is like,
specifically though,
I-
for aging-
Well, you really
aging
want
population?
but
to
also,
attract,
yeah, but there's also a
Oh,
need
well,
for.
But I think they're very different, I think.
Yeah.
but you really want to attract young couples. I mean, so saying senior, multifamily doesn't always mean senior.
Mhm.
Yeah,
No,
and
Generational doesn't always mean senior. It might
there's
mean
a really,
your married son is living in your basement apartment
it's
before
too
he can
heavy,
afford a house.
it's too heavy an emphasis on seniors, it's as simple as that.
Got it. Yeah, no, I
It's
see
just
what you
way
mean.
too heavy, I mean, the seniors are, 20% of the population, but,
Maybe we stick with the multi-generational term.
yeah.
Just say
Multi-generational.
multi-generational.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to.
I am too.
All of
Yeah,
it.
you could just put a period after opportunities and cut the last
Yeah.
couple words out.
Yeah, I would, I
Hey,
was
Sasha.
aware, yeah.
Could you lead this conversation?
Sure, sorry.
I'm lost.
We lost where you were.
No, that's okay, it was a lot, and I apologize. So, okay,
I added the starter to the cottage, and then after that, I kind of lost track of what.
okay, so you went back to 2.2.1
Yeah,
and
I added
allowed
starter.
cottage styles, like starter homes, to kind of clarify that. So my proposal would be in 2.3.5 is to take out the part that says establish a bylaw to encourage starter homes, because it's redundant to that other suggestion.
I took that whole part out and just added.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, that's it on that.
Okay.
And then, back up to create additional housing opportunities in town and encourage multi-generational living. So if we keep that as is, and then we just go down to Kia's point and read through, encourage the development of multi-generational, there it is, living options to create additional housing opportunities for seniors, no problem. Next one, adopt the Community Preservation Act, I think that works because we're adopting it. 2.3.3, implement a senior housing bylaw to encourage affordable long-term options for aging residents. Are we okay with keeping that one senior?
What would that mean?
So
That means
nothing more than
assisted
considering.
living. Well, it could mean assisted living, progressive
Yeah.
living options,
Or like, yeah, that-
nursing homes, right?
Progressive, exactly. My last comment on housing, just to get you all excited for it to be done. In 2.3.4, revise the barn, stable, and carriage house preservation bylaw. My proposal is that I'm having a problem with the as of right within these structures. And the reason I'm having problems is because it seems like an oxymoron to me. If you have a bylaw, it's not as of right. However, I think there's a lot of room in that bylaw to allow for more flexibility so that more can be done in there. So my suggestion for the revision of action 2.3.4 is to read it this way. Revise.
I'm in a meeting, can I call you back? Yes, okay.
Could it be its own bylaw?
It is already its own bylaw.
Does what you want have to be under barn, stable, and carriage house? Why not? You just have a zoning that says by right, you can
Well, this is the
have accessory
action.
buildings.
Let's get back to that question. Let me propose the change to this one, because this is specifically an action to look at or revise this specific bylaw.
Okay.
But then to your point, maybe we add a new one. But this one, my proposal would be revise the barn, stable, and carriage house preservation bylaw to allow applicants greater flexibility in creating detached accessory apartments within these structures. It takes out the as of right, but it means, go back and look, because there's so much
Is it
nuanced
just revising
detail
it
in there.
so it doesn't have to be 75 years old? I mean,
Well, that's the
what kind of
question.
revision are you talking about?
I'm talking about, or maybe consider revision of, because there's a lot of things to consider. It's a huge bylaw, right? So it would be, we had a little bit of a discussion about this before, where we were talking about, we have to be careful about parking and about setbacks and about, so the suggestion here, and again, I didn't suggest this. This was written in and I'm commenting on it. So I'm not comfortable with saying, take these structures and allow people, as of right, no discretionary approval to build whatever they want inside of them with the septic requirements.
I guess my feeling is the barn, stable, and carriage house preservation bylaw was really to help people not tear down their barns. And there aren't that many barns to be not torn down.
Okay.
So what you really need is, you need a bylaw to make it so that people can build accessory detached buildings on their lot if they're water sewer. Maybe not by right, but they
Yes.
should be allowed to
Build something.
do something.
Build
Yeah.
something, not have, you don't
But
have to
It
have.
doesn't have to be.
Without the
anything-
context of the barns.
There goes
Well,
our
it could be
primary
barn.
structure on
And
property.
without having to.
Yeah,
We already allow it, it's
Go to
just by
the
special
ZBA.
Allow
permit.
detached. As
We allow it, it's
living
just
structures
special
on our
permit.
property.
That would
I'm just
Didn't
worry
you have to
me.
go to the ZBA for yours?
No.
No? Okay, just glad to know.
But he had an existing barn. I mean, what if he didn't have an existing barn? What, what if the barn, you don't have a barn, but you want a barn, and you want a barn with an apartment above it. You wanna build a barn with an apartment above it. What,
Okay.
just have a.
So that's an detached accessory unit.
Could you have a bylaw
Which
that
is-
allowed?
Yeah, that's already, we already have
That's
that.
right.
But it's just not as a road. It's special permit.
Right.
So that's an
So all you're
existence.
changing is to add a huge amount of narrative if you're gonna do it by right, as opposed to a simple thing that gives the basis of it and you do it by permit.
Yeah, so why don't we take out as of right?
Then we don't need it because we already allowed it.
We already allow it.
Oh, so therefore that doesn't have much, does it?
So,
Well, we can look at the greater flexibility.
and honestly, if you guys don't, if you feel like it's okay as of right in these structures, then that's fine. It's more about protecting the person that is next to that property and, not knowing, if it falls under this bylaw, it's very specific, the kinds of things you can do in there. But if it's not under this bylaw, if it's as of,
It specifically says accessory apartment though. So you're gonna, what would be the issue with putting one apartment in a barn?
and not expanding the other uses.
Like
That,
what?
like business uses
Oh,
and there's all these,
I didn't read it that way, I didn't get the impression. You're looking at the bylaw and what the bylaw
Right.
allows, but this goal is just to allow the detached accessory apartments
within the bylaw.
within the bylaw.
I got you.
Oh, so wait, should we not be saying within these structures at the end? Because that's confusing.
Yes.
We're talking about detached, right?
Mhm.
So they're not within.
So it's these structures, meaning the barn, stable, the
Yes,
carriage house.
yes.
So,
But treating them,
5 acre
treating
lot.
those as detached.
Right.
I can build 3 little barns for my 5 kids that actually stay on my land.
I know, it's a
now.
really, the bylaws
So
confusing.
I've got my
and the
primary
rules are
house, and I've
confusing.
got,
Like
this
everyone's
can
figured
do
out.
3 new,
Yeah, but there are limits on that.
No, you're only allowed one.
where's that?
Only one,
You're only allowed
and
one.
it requires a fair amount of review.
Right.
We just had one.
How many bedrooms can you?
All right, have we figured this out?
I wanna take
We
it
have,
out.
we have to get on to an economic development.
I
What am I doing though?
I just take the whole thing out.
I would too, I would too.
Okay.
And let it come up in its own, as of right, let it come up in its own right.
So we're
Thank you,
taking it out.
Yeah.
All right,
thank you.
Defensive.
thank you. That was a lot of work.
That was a lot of your time too, I apologize, I thought I could do it in a lot shorter.
No, you did really well. Economic development.
You just scan down to, oops, there you go, whoops.
I like the addition of the appropriate locations. There's a double period, I don't know if you care, Pam, 3.1.2.
That's super full stop.
Well, those two family duplex. That's kind of ridiculous.
There's an image of where some of these mixed-use districts might actually go.
Forbish and May.
Yeah, that's the only other one, only one I've heard discussed.
That's not, if it,
You could also maybe make a case that the land that's for sale down.
Why don't you actually put that there?
Could apply to that,
Huh?
oh, that one.
because you've got an empty building
Which
or
one?
two, and bunch of empty land,
Yeah,
so you can
what?
do a mixed use thing there, maybe.
Yes,
I
well,
think as a master plan, we should endorse something like Forbush and Maine and say so.
I think it's too early for me to feel comfortable endorsing it. I like it in theory, but
That's a conversation I had with Randall Aaron, and he thought it would be a beautifully appropriate place to use our focused
everybody
I have
likes
the
it.
same ring.
focused area analysis where we took a look at that whole area and figured out who owned it and what it gets to it, but he was very interested in it.
I think we know who owns it.
Yeah, we know who owns some of it.
A lot of it.
Danny.
I was comfortable with these, by the way, and I like the goals around supporting agricultural tourism.
Yeah.
I like leaning
Yeah, I
into our
like that a lot,
strengths.
yeah.
I
Okay,
think we improved this last week.
Yeah,
It wasn't
Yeah, we
easy, but
did.
I'm pretty happy with
taking
it.
some stuff out.
okay, on to natural, cultural, and historical.
Where's
Historical.
Mary? Where's Mary?
Adopt.
Yeah, where's Mary? Just go up a little higher. We had something again, we were back in
What's that?
structures, I'm sorry.
Up
A little
higher?
further higher?
Sure.
There we go. 342? Are we back to that again, or?
Only for, that's for business uses.
Okay.
Yeah, which, it's a good,
Yeah, I
it's a
think
good
that's it.
find or something.
But that's,
Accessory
but
uses for
since we're
business.
doing it, we may decide not to
Yeah.
do it, but I think to have it there.
Right.
so.
Hold on, back up for a second.
Back up.
Sorry, you go first.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, I think the wording of 4.1.3 might be off, or I just am not getting it.
4.1.3.
Yeah.
There's two.
Oh, yeah, there's a little action that's stuck in there.
My only, and it's a personal issue with me, is that barn, stable, and carriage house, the 100-year issue, is, I think that ought to be extended to perfect, exact replications of historical buildings.
Certainly the effort was put into to
Well,
warrant it.
Wait, so yeah, that's just the,
It's like a rogue action, look at it hanging out in there. Because then there's another 4.1.5 down below, digitize historic documents.
Yeah, this was sort of odd,
Okay, this makes sense.
the layout.
And Pam, instead of implement, adopt for the Community Preservation Act up top.
Or we said pursue
Oh,
adoption of.
pursue adoption of, thank you, Keith. Like Keith said.
I'm sorry, I had a few people talking to me.
That was me.
Just 4.11,
Pursue.
making CPA the
on
same as the other.
4.1.1,
Pursue.
Pursue the adoption of.
of.
Good catch, Keith, thank you.
Digitizing historical documents would be so cool.
Wouldn't it?
well, they've started, the first town
And
book
there's
is
all
now
these
digitized.
grants to do it too.
Nice to digitize every all the
Costs money and takes a lot of time.
millions of pounds of paperwork in my office.
And you don't have enough room for another million pounds of paper.
No, I know.
Well, we don't have a vault right now, so there's all these documents there.
Well, there's a vault at the library, guys.
Is it, does it have some, like, I know that some of our documents were,
I don't know, I haven't looked what's in there in years.
Can we go to the next one?
Yeah.
there's so much history, right?
Move down?
Well,
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, under 4.1.6 digitized, I think you could also say pursue grants that digitize historical.
Maybe it's just a given.
Or maybe that's a good one.
It's a given.
Okay,
Yeah,
forget it, yeah.
okay.
Mary's not like that.
I guess one of the concerns I have is I don't think we have a good inventory of what those documents are. We don't even know. Agree?
I agree 100%.
I'm not gonna tell Mary that.
She knows.
Well, then we don't have to worry about it.
So there, it's not necessarily to appoint a committee, just
Action.
do the same thing, pursue adoption of
Oh, yeah, goal 5.1.2.
Yeah.
Ken?
Yep.
Are we on
Are
open
we
space?
done?
I think so.
I think we moved on to open space. Oh, we're just whipping along
Can
there.
I ask a question about how do we discourage, up to that discourage building in sensitive areas? We either allow it or we don't. How do we discourage,
Conservation Commission, probably.
or stand
That's
up
a
there?
big hand in that one. Big axe. Big axe.
Do we want it just
We
that?
battled them for 2 years in many ZBA meetings.
Okay.
So actually, this thing about the CPA, so are we basically taking the position that we don't think that there needs to be a committee to study it, we're recommending that we pursue adoption of it?
Yeah, that's not a consistent goal, yeah, with the other ones.
Which number?
So right now, there's the goal that says, it has basically said, appoint a CPA
Oh,
advisory committee to study the CPA, conduct public education and voter support.
Yeah, that rings differently than the others I thought of.
Because we're basically saying, we've sort of come to the
Go
conclusion
do
that we should do it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it says adopted on 5.1.3 stuff, you
So
know.
take 5.1,
Point two
2
out.
out,
I
and then
think
change
so.
this to pursue adoption.
Yeah.
Or then it'd be
I just use the same language over and
But
over.
notice that it says goal 5.1, it should say action, I guess.
Yeah.
Or else it goes.
we're gonna get rid of that.
Yeah, we're gonna
Just get
take
rid
that
of it,
goal.
and just keep saying we're gonna pursue adoption. Because in the course of pursuing adoption,
We'll come up with a
if people
committee.
come up with enough reasons to not do it, then the pursuit will have happened and the adoption will not. So,
That's right.
it would, we're saying, we think it should be pursued.
Okay, we need a apostrophe at 523.
Yep, for towns.
I guess was five.
Oh, and then comma instead of period.
Do we want to say possibly, evaluate expansion
Okay,
of,
so
Or
So
such
the-
as
so
playgrounds.
Oh, yeah.
the goal 5.3 has been added since last meeting, and so it's possibly duplicative with that
with the one above?
523,
It,
because it specifically looks at playgrounds in the next one.
So take,
The idea,
Mm-hmm.
Which do you want to take out, Ken?
The 523.
I take out 523
I'd say
because,
got 523.
because the idea of 5.3 is that
It expands.
that's expanding where the other one is improving access to what we already have.
Makes sense.
Don't we want to do both?
That's why we have 5.3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
We're
you can
increasing in
incorporate that.
5.3
Yeah.
after we've improved it in 5.2.
So get rid of 523.
Right.
And so,
these are the 3 new ones.
yeah, so we put in these 3 actions to do a needs assessment, and then there's the encouraging of collaboration we talked about at the last meeting. And then prioritizing the needs and working with people. Now, let me just comment about something that occurred to me when I wrote this. Other owners of identified current or potential recreational properties. One of those is the beach that used to be at Camp Virginia. It's now on private property, and is there, and I have no idea, but there are buildings there, there's a beach there, and it's not private. I don't know if the people use it or not, but if they were willing and interested in letting the new road that goes right to those things be used in a collaboration thing where we help pay them in the same way we might pay the Boy Scouts, that's an example of one. And there may or may not be any other examples like that, but that's the one that occurred to me when I came up with those words. And it may be that you call them up and they say no and you're done, but Anyway, if there are other things you wanna add or
A period at the end of
or work
facilities.
you do on that, we're wide open for that.
I think you'll have a challenge for that success on it.
Pam, stop the
Dr.
period
Gabby,
of the
With
facilities.
with Whitman?
that's right, it's in bad shape.
Okay, so we done with open space, gentlemen?
Divorce on the right. I think so.
Okay, on to municipal facilities.
Brief me on that.
Um,
Ozark?
I have a couple of comments on that. One is 6.1.2, it says appointed committee conducts space planning to assess the need for complete renovation, expansion, or relocation. And then in the objective beforehand, it says initiate process to upgrade town hall and parks and works. Well, it's sort of, we wouldn't do that if we were gonna have to study whether we need to relocate it, expand it, or whatever. So I think the objection should be initiate a planning process focusing on improving accessibility and working conditions for municipal employees. And take out upgrade town hall and public works facilities. See what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, you can actually just literally delete.
Yeah,
It's already down there, she's just deleting a part, so.
Oh,
okay, so it would read, initiate a planning process focusing on improving accessibility and working conditions for municipal employees.
Yep.
And then the rest would stay the same. And then if you go to 6.3.1,
Wow. Can't read it.
I'm sorry,
We're way past that up there.
okay. 6.3.1. Ensure emergency shelter location remain accessible to all community members during times of emergency and climate-related hazard. Verify the present, put in the word present, availability status of Lancaster shelter, as well as additional locations. Because the reality is that right now, if we have an emergency, need a shelter, we go to Atlantic Union. But once the new high school is built, we will go to the new high school because it's already been, Jeff has gone through the whole thing with the builders on what he needs and where things should be and whatever. So that will be the emergency shelter once the new high school is built. Okay.
Can I ask a question about that? If we have an emergency shelter, I'm presuming that,
When, now or later?
no, later,
Okay.
are we gonna have storage for 100 cots?
Yes, they will have it in a semi.
And,
And
Yeah, all
they will
of
have
that.
it, they will have all that stuff separate, but they'll bring it in when they need it. Or that's the plan.
This is our time check, it's 8:30.
All right.
We're doing fairly well, I think.
Pretty well.
Yeah, we're 2/3 after 9.
I think we'll be wrapping up by 9 o'clock.
All right, that's what Brian thinks. Okay,
Such an alarm for that.
6.3.3, see how much attention I pay to the word. It seems like we are spending an awful lot of time, sort of concentrating on seniors. Why doesn't this apply to the whole town? To provide information sessions and emergency preparedness information for the whole town and instead of just the seniors?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
we are the most
Right, good
important
point.
ones,
Good point.
Well, I know, but
but we'd like to have some youngsters in the running.
and also I think we need a webpage on emergency planning for the
just its
town.
own separate one.
Yeah, I think so, don't you?
You want a new action item?
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is, if you're gonna tell the town about emergency planning, we need a page. I say, this is,
Educate, we could say educate, within that could be a page.
that's fine, but I don't care how you say it. I just want the stop focusing on just the poor seniors, because we're so helpless. Aren't we?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I never heard of
I thought Atlantic Union College didn't exist.
So we'll write that down.
that.
Great outreach.
So, that was all I had to say. That was all my 2 cents
I
worth.
thought some of them.
Who's got any money? That's the issue. externally, somebody's taking care of it.
Watch, this looks like AI is producing it for us.
Ooh, I like that.
Are we on to
The way
transportation?
the words pop up, AI is
Yeah,
writing it for us.
anticipating it.
Are we on to transportation,
Freaks me
ladies
out.
and gentlemen?
Just this quick, creating outreach. That,
Where are you?
it's on the 6 before,
Conduct, I'll change it to conduct.
maybe,
Yeah, conduct.
And then,
but it's also, that
you get rid of the
sounds
word
like,
plans.
it sounds like an educational thing, and I think what he's proposing is, there's gotta be a website that everybody goes to.
Well, she
You
said,
get, you get some
Part of
kind
the
of
town
alert
website.
saying, yeah.
Are you gonna have a
Although,
resource?
since I can't navigate the town website.
And I just
So
need,
bad.
watch what you say about it.
I
You'll
can't
hurt
really-
people's feelings.
Well, I haven't looked lately.
You'll still
I think, you know,
hurt It's not that I don't
We have to
disagree with
think
you.
of one step beyond websites. I mean, it's really nice to have a website.
Twitter, Snap.
Anyhow, whatever you want to put, but it's gotta be,
Well, no, I think it ought to be broadened to that.
yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Brian, you said something about plan
Conduct
coming out?
outreach, it doesn't say how.
what?
Oh,
The word
she
plan?
took it out.
Oh, she took
Oh,
it
okay.
out.
Okay. Transportation and circulation?
I think you'll just need to change the next action number to 6.3.5.
Oh, all right, see, I'm not paying attention, I can't read that.
Okay.
I thought it was, I thought about that a couple of days ago because there was a huge sun flare and it knocked out all communication in 2 countries.
Oh,
Wow.
oh, mama.
That
Where?
thought crosses my mind, like an EMP went off. It's in my post-it pop
And someone told me,
As long as we don't want to.
A lot of noise on the show.
It would just be a hot mess.
It would be.
I find this ADA stuff really fascinating, because the ADA is a law. If anybody walks in and says, you know, like that ramp out front doesn't mean ADA, they can sue the town.
No, there's some grandfathering and things like that. Based on the structure, the age of the structures.
Not when it was put in.
Oh, really?
No.
They put in a
Harold put
non-compliant
the
ADA
trickiest
ramp?
one for a minute.
Harold put in a non-compliant ADA ramp.
I did have a question about one of the actions further down in this section,
Where are you?
transportation and circulation.
Oh, you're in transportation, okay. Just so we've moved on.
Could you scroll down just a tiny bit? There's mention of a capital plan, I think even down maybe a little bit more.
742.
Develop a capital improvement plan to adopt the ramp, yeah.
So, I don't know who put that in, and I was just hoping to hear what the thinking behind that was, because it struck me as the reaction I had was, we hire a professional to lead DPW. If we're talking about roadway improvements, I think that person should have their plan, but I don't know that it's the type of thing. It feels a little micromanagey to have it be like adopted at a town meeting,
Yeah,
but
It's not over micromanaging, it's just not necessary.
Yeah, I agree.
We used to have a capital improvement committee.
Well, no.
We don't anymore, right?
That
So
went by.
that's why it should go out.
And it was also.
That went bye-bye.
That's capital planning committee,
Yeah.
but this is capital improvement related to roads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I agree.
It should be
Good point.
adopted by the town meeting?
No, I don't.
No.
Okay.
And I
Also,
think it was BSC, didn't they
No, I
create?
mean, everything has to be approved
yeah,
by
they
the town
do,
meeting.
they do.
Oh, this,
You
yes.
did it, but
Yeah.
the plan is the basis of what you take to the town meeting, so.
But in a
Also,
broader sense, is it the
Well, the
town
funding.
administrator who does that entirely now?
yes, which necessarily is not the best way to do it, but at the moment, that's how it happens.
But again, it gets back to, and I agree, but it gets back to who leads it and who's on it.
Well, you could say you want a capital improvement committee.
Well, hold on a second though. So we're within a goal that's about roadway.
No, I agree,
improvements,
no.
But I just want to know the wording, like, Because when you see capital improvement plan, you're thinking much
Bigger,
bigger.
yes.
So,
Wait, someone explain 7.4.1 to me. It's gobbledygook to me, or am I just being stupid? What is it?
And what hospital?
You know, I just don't know what it says.
Yeah,
I think probably what it's saying is that the roads that it would lead you to Clinton Hospital or to evacuate the town to 495 or whatever it is would have priority over the side roads that didn't do that.
Well, either we should say that, or
Well, I
we should
agree
take
with
it out.
But I agree that
It just didn't make any sense to me.
well, we don't have any emergency roadways and we don't have any
Yeah,
that are marked
we have
for
an emergency
evacuation.
route. I was thinking as the emergency route. The
From-
117 emergency route,
I don't know.
an evacuation route.
I don't know.
Who sets
I
them?
don't think so. I mean,
I don't think it's
I
ever
don't know
been,
that it's been designated as
I
that.
think you have to have
Who
an
designates
you
evacuation.
may have to have one legally in
Yeah.
town, and it probably was done 1,000 years ago.
I think.
Way before our
I'm
time.
not- I'm not aware of.
No idea.
Before our time, Ken. Even though we've been around for so
You've
long,
never had
before our time.
well, you'll find out about it with our new social media outreach for.
Yeah, but I do think, I think this
Emergency
should come out
preparedness.
because I think all it does is confuse people.
Take the whole thing out.
Yeah, because it doesn't make any
I don't know
sense.
what it means.
Yeah, if you don't know what it means, we need to make it go bye-bye.
And where that money come from.
Okay, Mary may not like that.
Oh, well, we'll find out if there's if there is. I'll ask Randy.
Well, who sets evacuation routes?
Oh, probably the state at some point 1,000 years ago, before Ken and I were around.
But I,
and then,
But actually, it
Well, I'm
would
not
be
sure that that's
valuable to know,
Mhm.
do we have evacuation routes?
for,
The old civil defense.
Well, the bottom line is, whether you have one or not, if you say this is the only emergency evacuation route in town, it's not gonna move because everyone will take it.
Right.
Which sort of defeats the whole purpose of getting people out of town as quickly as possible.
Well, the other thing
Well,
is, in
they're
this
supposed to
particular
identify
town, we have a major artery north-south and a major artery east-west, and if you can't figure that out,
Well,
which quadrant you're in.
I don't think I think
You don't
this
deserve
will
to
come out.
live here.
Okay,
Ryan,
I was just gonna make a suggestion on what is now 7.4.2, which I guess will become 7.4.1. So what I would say is, I would say include roadway improvement and maintenance items in, and then lowercase, annual capital improvement plans.
Or annual improvement plan.
I believe they already are.
Well,
To the best of my knowledge, road improvement plans are all included, and he's got a list a mile long of
Randy has a very, very.
very detailed list of all things he wants to do and when he wants to do it.
And there's a standard
Yeah,
application that does that.
yeah. I mean, he's already got that.
Maybe Mary wanted to review those
Well,
a little closer,
She
because,
can see him anytime she wants. Randy will show it to anybody.
I know, but.
But I-
How can
again-
I say this tactfully? Maybe it's that somebody other than Randy needs to weigh in on Randy's choices.
You can do that, but I sort of think that Randy has a really good handle.
well, hold
I don't
on,
know.
let's also just keep in mind, so this is a long-term plan. I don't
And
think
Don and the selectmen,
I don't think there's any problem in having the action be there, because if Randy's not the DPW.
Right, he'll be gone,
We should
yeah.
still say,
yeah, no, I can see
So-
that.
so what I'm suggesting, Pam, is we shouldn't start the sentence with develop a capital improvement plan. Just
No.
start it with include.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah,
There's one thing on it.
No,
Yeah, take that whole part out,
Yeah.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
I'll
And start include,
include roadway improvement plan. So include roadway improvement items.
Create, do we have them?
items.
Items,
Under
improvement items.
We already have annual capital improvement plans. I put that
Yeah,
lowercase
but
because,
items.
so include roadway improvement items in annual capital improvement plans.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think what she might have been trying to get at is the outgrowth of the Public Way Safety Committee.
It could be, but
And there were a lot of things that we would talk about and try to get Harold to do.
Randy works with her really closely on that now. I don't think this is anything, I don't know.
I think there's a little friction.
Well, I'll ask her to review it, and she can,
We'll get Randy to figure out what's going on.
Brian,
Because there shouldn't be
who
very-
actually looks at long-term capital planning? Priorities,
The town administrator certainly does.
So what's the process now?
well,
As opposed,
yeah,
Capital
now,
planning
the,
yeah,
is
so
appropriate.
it is a job responsibility for the town administrator every year to make sure that the plan is updated, and he has a 5-year plan that he presents to the advisory committee. And then
And the select.
it's also shared with the select board, but it's primarily presented in advisory committee meetings. But, and he develops that in conjunction with the department heads.
Yeah.
And so it's limited at 5 years?
No, I don't think so. Is it?
Well, what he presents is mostly 5 years looking out, but it like incorporates some longer term
and
plans.
the budget request each year usually asks the departments to look 4 or 5 years out, and
Yeah.
what their capital needs are gonna be, and then he compiles all those together.
So I can figure out if he's got
And
too much in one
If they have
year
longer ones, then
and balance them out.
at least you would know what they are, but they may or may not be on the 5
Yeah,
years.
you don't want all the departments to have the same requests in the same year. You know, you can move them around.
I will say that, like, I think, so we're obviously in the process of looking to hire a new town administrator whose daughter's retiring, and I think capital planning experience will be an interesting area to explore, because in
I
my
agree.
experience, like, there are downsides to having it done by a committee also, because,
So that's why committee went bye-bye.
yeah, it just,
Didn't work.
I don't know, good for you or not, but.
When I was on advisory, it was not very productive capital planning process. So I would agree
Nicely
by
put.
default that
Nicely
that
put.
was not a great experience, so I'm hoping this is better.
We're just thinking about the overall process, though, as opposed to departments getting together and looking at theirs, and then you determine prioritizations. But looking at much, much longer term items about the capital planning committee deciding, or the capital planner deciding the process towards more clearer definition of both the magnitude and the timing of really, really big items.
And we haven't ever done that as far as I know.
Well,
You know, I think
Not
that's,
really.
that and it's looking at all the implementation recommendations of the master plan really reduces to that. You know, you're talking about 15, 20 years, okay. You know, what is the place gonna look like in 20 years? And what is the process you go through to get there? You know, how do you do the high level planning? How do your priorities change along the way? How do you manage all that stuff? You know, and having been running billion-dollar projects, that is a nightmare. And it's really messy, and it takes a really thoughtful person and process to make it happen. You know, it's a little like, and I reflected on that with a high school. Well, yeah, it's really neat. Boy, a lot of planning went into it. Hey, what about all the other stuff? And I came away concerned with, you know, in terms of the community per se, I'm not sure we've balanced that. I'm not sure we've thought about it. You know, community center, administrative offices, all the rest of that stuff. How does that all get rolled into it, and what kind of planning goes into it, and how do you prioritize it? So when I talk about a capital planning committee, I think more about the process and how do you think about that instead of who does it. You know, what is the capital planning process? How far do you look out? How do you gather it? You know, when does it go from aspirational to more definition? You know, that kind of thing. And I don't
How do
think
you channel it?
we're nowhere in here have we addressed that. You know, what we have now is a whole list of neat things that we'd like to do in an implementation matrix. And okay, now how do we look out to the very end of that and start putting our arms around the process towards making refining the definition, defining better what the budgets would be and prioritizing it as we go along. Anyway, enough said.
Well, it would be good to have a process, because I remember Ann Hurd used to talk about that all the time, and she said at Intel, they had a annual budget review with every department or every group you were working with. And they would go through, this is what you're asking for this year. And then they'd say, what is your 5-year, what would you like to be budgeting for in 5 years, 10 years, whatever. So each little group or entity would say, these are what I think my community needs. And you at least get it on to a point of discussion. And then, all the groups clearly get together and they realize we all want different things, but this is the year we're going to be doing the school. This is the year we're going to be doing blah, blah, blah. So at least all of those things have been discussed. They're on somebody's agenda. The administrator knows what long-term people want. And it's up to the community to help say, oh yeah, this year we're doing the library. This year we're doing the school. This year we're going to do sidewalks. This year we're not going to do anything. There should be a process.
That's what I think happens at the department level. I mean, I remember the fire truck and the cruiser, and there was always this rotating schedule.
It's everybody throwing their piece in.
I don't think I've
Somebody
been aware of
decides
that.
Why don't we go back to municipal services? And if there isn't a goal in there related to creating a capital planning process, we could put it in there.
I'd like to see.
That would allow,
I don't want to talk
that would
about
allow what Bob is talking about to be articulated in the master plan.
Yeah, I think you're right. Why don't we say
Maybe
capital planning
maybe
process?
the
I
best
think
place
it
to
should
put
be,
that.
I think it would be valuable to have at least a.
And it ought to go in municipal services because we're talking about the capital plan of the town, of money the town is going to spend, which will be administered by the municipal services. And presumably that capital planning process will be headed by them. And maybe we already have part of it.
But to me, it's a very, very challenging process because you have to have people who understand the economics of it, who understand the tax base, who understand a whole bunch of things and can deal with, taking aspirational issues, prioritizing them, and then tightening them up until you finally have a 5-year spending plan. But the process, I don't think, is well defined at all.
Right. So it's not in any of those three.
So,
I don't know
No,
what
keep
goal it
going.
would fit in.
Ryan, I mean, you've been
down.
you've been in the middle of it for 2 major committees now.
so I guess
There's no more.
what I
Is
had
there a
thought about
beyond
this,
that?
Bob, is that a lot of master plans have a master plan
Okay, so there
implementation.
isn't one for it now, right?
And I know that in our implementation matrix, we talk about responsible partners, but maybe it's just, whether it's in this section or in another part of the plan, just spelling out who is gonna own, tracking some of the longer term projects that are reflected in this plan. I don't know that it necessarily is it's not necessarily a capital planning process, is more as a master plan implementation process. I don't know if I'm making sense.
No, I think that's absolutely what
Yeah, I
it is.
think you're right.
And by the way,
You're
part
right.
of that is prioritization, part of it is finance, part of it is a whole bunch of things. But and Andy, maybe you have some history on this, but in 2006, that had been recommended. And I believe it had been blown out of the plan, that there be an implementation committee that did essentially that. It came up with a process of looking at all the recommendations, putting some timelines up against them, prioritization, costs, and all the rest of that. And that, the selectmen decided, no, we'll do it, thank you, it's our job.
Yeah, well, it's that control that, yeah, it's
Well, remember the selectmen didn't really approve that plan anyway.
no, they didn't, they weren't too happy with us. No, well, also it all happened because, for a lot of reasons, there are a lot of other issues involved with that plan.
Right.
And that was part of it. part of the thing.
But what we could do either is have it separate, or you could add a goal under the municipal facilities related to this capital planning process. And it would be reasonable because each of the 4 goals we have are more specific. And so you could have one in there that is basically to establish a capital planning process within the town government, and then have an action to form a committee or whatever it is, or work with the new administration to define what that is and to implement it or something like
Well,
that.
why don't we make it just that, just put a goal in there, that we need a capital planning process, and leave it at that.
Yeah, leave it at that, don't get into the details.
Okay.
Because it is, I mean, it's a very complicated process
Yeah.
to do it intelligently.
I think not necessarily tonight, but maybe at our next meeting, we should talk about, like I looked at, there's the actual matrix chart that's also in the Google Drive. You almost want a section up front that kind of spells out the expectations about who's gonna own, making sure, like, where my mind goes is, I think every year, the select board should ensure that the town administrator is choosing some number of high priority things from the master plan and making sure that they're being addressed or dealt with or whatever. There needs to be a process to make sure that this stuff is actually implemented.
Yes, and not stuck on the shelf and left there.
Right.
Well, and what's happened, I mean, in my conversation with the Silver Golden Common, and then the interview I did with him, one of the things that came up was, well, in the 2006 plan, what has happened? Could you give us a clear definition of all of the actions that have been taken as a result of recommendations? And the
No, you have to just go through one
answer
by
is
one.
No, you know,
No, but
it's
we
a
went
real
through-
simple no.
We went
Didn't you
through.
do a benchmark? There's a benchmark in
We
the
did,
file.
we went through and we said,
It's
well, we've
not
done
up to
that.
date, folks. I
Well,
went through it and said, oh my word,
but we did at some point.
I saw it in the file, I don't.
it's in the file,
Wow.
but it's not up to date. Erica was the last person to do it.
Well, you know, I remember doing
Well,
sitting down with her.
That's another problem too.
Because
You
we had
have,
a slide on it that
by the time someone gets
Valerie's
used to the
presentation.
process.
And it was way out of date.
Okay.
All right, so anyhow, we
we
need to
tried
update
to
it.
have it up to date.
In any case, to
Okay,
Brian's
let's-
point, we
yeah.
need
We have it
Yeah.
in there, develop a
Some-
capital.
Yeah,
narrative
okay.
on how this is all gonna work.
Okay, otherwise, we need to get on to water and sewer and climate change,
We have
otherwise
6
we won't.
minutes.
Well, whatever, you know, Brian's got his
I'm
clock.
gonna turn into a pumpkin.
No, he's gonna starve to death. We can't have selectmen starving to death.
Give them a chocolate.
Or if we do, we should be able to pick the one.
Yes.
Are there any more changes from last week in the water and sewer?
No, I wouldn't touch water and sewer.
Nice, Sharon.
612 is
I'm
being
thinking
done by
about
the
it.
Concom today. It almost seems irrelevant.
Where are we?
612?
Oh, we're,
I'm
I
sorry,
think we're,
Go
we're,
go back.
we're on eight, we're on eight.
812.
Oh,
Oh,
thank
it's
God,
anymore.
thank God. You go
I
too.
mean,
Okay.
I'm experiencing that as Parks Chairman.
Yes,
Yeah, but not residential, yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but if you're not in the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, does it apply? So it's good to leave it in there, I think.
I would put it in there and underline and make restrict. Because I think that one of the climate issues that we have to do is to actually stop the use.
We in climate change or we?
No, we're on
Well,
A, water sewer.
Okay,
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
checking.
we've got herbicides,
812.
pesticides, and chemical fertilizers in residential lawns, yes. So, yeah, we're talking about seriously restricting. Yeah,
I don't know that areas of critical environmental concern and natural heritage fits within that chapter.
no, because I think what you want is restrict the use of herbicides, pesticides, and chemical fertilizers in residential lawns. Because that's where,
To protect
that protects the aquifer.
So how are you gonna
Well,
do
also
that?
the size of the road, right?
Restricted.
How are you gonna do that?
You
That's
make
the
it.
combo. I mean,
Yeah,
seriously.
Well, yeah, well, what you do
Practical
is,
standpoint, trying to get this
No, I can
to the
appreciate
town
what you're saying.
meeting with the Fox Run beautiful homes and the oak trail,
Okay.
and the beautiful lawns. I'm just saying, it's America, and
Yeah,
how do you get into that where you're gonna, Gestapo, I'm gonna go check your lawn and see what you're doing?
Well, then what we do is we word it into, educate the population.
That's
And
good,
the-
Educate
educate is good.
the
Yeah.
dangers involved
Recommend,
in the
educate.
Yeah, and then that seems better, educate to the
Yeah.
dangers of herbicides, pesticides, and chemical fertilizers.
fertilizers.
I like it.
Yeah.
Because you can't,
No, you can't.
You just can't.
Can we
even though
restrict-
Sharon would like to bash them all over the head.
well,
Can we restrict or ban sprinkler systems in new houses?
Ah, excellent.
no, you can, in new houses, yeah.
In new houses, can we restrict any future sprinkler systems?
You can restrict the way you irrigate plants. I mean, you can say that, shrubs around your house need to be irrigated in a certain way, and you cannot use aerial water sprinkling systems on your lawn.
Does that
You can
pass,
do it any other way.
has that passed?
What,
Is
no,
that established law?
do that.
in a study in a number of places.
Rural
Established law.
community.
But wait, in
Rural
California,
community.
Well,
Yeah, not a,
Massachusetts
no,
law.
I've never heard of that before.
I think that,
It's a great idea.
I think Concord
We've had
does.
wells run dry around our area.
yeah, but I think Concord has a ruling.
Okay.
yeah, but they have a public water supply. And you, places like Westford has a public water supply,
Yeah.
and wherever you see lawn sprinklers, you see a big sign, private well.
Not all.
Yeah, you do.
That's a private way.
Yeah.
Not all.
Well,
It's
How many
only
that are-
enforced that they're
Well,
private
we-
ones.
Again, noble ideas, very difficult to implement.
Okay. Can we move on to climate change? Otherwise, he's gonna turn into a pumpkin.
Well, I would
Sound good.
love to see that.
Oh, he's too cute for a pumpkin.
Oh, he'd be an adorable pumpkin.
So we did change 8.1.2 to educate.
So we've got a
Yes.
committee to
Yes.
study,
Okay.
I think
And
it's
we
time,
took out
Brian.
the endangered
we've got a committee
species
to
and
study
natural
Okay,
habitat.
where are
the
we?
carbon footprint. The
Okay.
911
Wait,
was something we talked about earlier.
You know,
And this is what you're gonna,
Right.
Sharon's gonna look more at this and give some feedback.
Yeah.
I feel like this is your forte.
Yeah, this is your turn.
She hasn't had time, so.
She hasn't had time, so she's gonna. In fact, she's got it now.
you know, I don't know where.
No, what you're gonna do when you go home.
Right out of the blue, about 2 weeks ago, I got one of the famous Pat Van Settler emails. And she asked a very simple question. Who assures that our surface water is reasonably pure? Nobody does. Nobody does.
God.
The only people who do it is if there's a
Yeah.
problem or it looks colorful. That's it.
I was gonna answer
And
you.
PFAS, and now we state this.
No, this is
For
very-
a big issue.
Take over.
PFAS moves fastest in surface water.
There it is.
Well,
It's a happy sound.
What I would suggest is that, Sharon, that you review this in detail at home and send any markups that you have to Pam, and then, I guess, I don't know, Pam, can you share them with us?
How are we
Is that-
allowed
Yeah.
to see that?
Is that legal? So that everybody
I'll
else
just
can look
add them
at it?
as track comments into the
Yeah.
Google Doc.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, and then we can go
And
in
then
and
people
see.
can,
Go in.
then
Would
people
you give
can
us a
look
heads
at
up
it,
when they're in there?
so
So
that
we
then
go
it can
in?
be
Thank you.
more quickly discussed at the next meeting rather than spending another 2 hours on it.
and you're trying to get around the time.
This is a private conversation.
Yes, I wasn't sure what you were referring to.
I don't know what that means, frankly, but.
What?
931?
Conduct wetland restoration of the Sill River floodplain at 110 and 117 to enhance and expand wetland soils and habitat.
I don't know what that means.
Fix something that's
Is
broken,
there a
maybe?
flood problem there?
They haven't flooded that in years. Remember when it used to flood all the time? 117?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's curious, actually. It must have been in the mitigation plan.
3 times in 30 years.
Because there was
Oh, when she was a
something
kid.
specific in that plan about, where they just put the Osprey.
Right.
I think there was something very specific in the plan, was it Apple Country, about that area. So
Okay.
I'd have to go back and look at the
They did
report.
like a test, as an example, they had all these pictures of it.
Okay, in that plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm remembering it, but I don't specifically
But I don't
have an
think it
answer.
was- I'm not sure we should put that in.
I think they BSC must have pulled that
It
from,
seems too
Very
specific.
specific, yeah.
We're not allowed to put other specific things we want, so I
Again,
don't
to
know
me,
why
that would be a
didn't-
Concom
Yeah,
issue.
yeah.
that would,
Recommend.
that makes sense to
Recommend,
me.
yeah.
So
we're taking that out?
And also, the
Strong.
one, they were trying to choose 3 different areas in that Apple Country, one in Bolton, one in Air, one in what. So
For like
that's
an
the one
example
they
of
picked.
something,
Why don't we
okay.
Right.
Take it
Why
out.
don't we
wanna
give Sharon a chance to review it at
Yeah.
home and then take it out?
Okay.
All right, we'll let,
Okay,
here.
Sharon, that one bullet right there,
It's 9.1.
it's in the
931?
931 is in, I'm gonna forget the name of the
I think it's
Yeah.
Apple Country.
Apple Country.
Okay, yeah, so this is Rebecca, all of Rebecca's things, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
all right.
No, they.
I don't know if anybody drives
Storing
down
it for
Golden Run Road,
I drive down Golden.
Using it as.
seeing the marvelous flood where
And I
the
didn't-
gate comes in,
Like
and,
that.
the road has actually eroded in there, so I went through it and hit a big hole.
Ooh, that's not good.
Hole in there, yeah, it's a quarter,
We talked about.
it floods every time now.
Okay, so where are, guys, where are
Okay,
we?
Anything else? Next steps or,
Okay, I guess the next question we have is, we've got these nice little one pagers, what do we do?
We should have thought of that before we did them.
Good point.
I think we have to wait till we have the goals, the final goals, right? Or like, to make sure that, because I know right now, the ones that are in there for housing anyway are probably a little bit different, right?
They were slightly different.
So, just like whatever the goals and objectives that are in the one pagers, I thought of this while we were talking. We just need to make sure the most recent changes of this get uploaded to those.
It reflected what was in there as of before this meeting.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll have to
just in case there's
Okay,
something changed there.
suppose we take these one pagers and get Cindy to actually put them in the paper.
Great, except that a lot of the links won't come through, so that would be a digital.
Then you spell out the links, that's all. It's painful, but, or you tell them where in the website
Would
they
Cindy
are.
print them? There's an
Or
order
direct
to print.
them in the article to the Facebook group where they will be digitally available,
Right,
maybe.
but let me talk to Cindy. I mean,
Okay.
they called me the last time to say,
They'll
I
print
don't know what's
anything.
going on.
They'll print anything, they don't have enough content, so, yeah.
That's great, that's great.
All right, you're gonna, now where are we on,
You wanna put them on Facebook page too?
I think a digital platform makes a lot of sense for ease of navigation of information.
The type of thing Kristen DeJohn might post to the community
Yes.
Facebook page.
Yeah.
yeah, she would.
And she said she would do that.
Awesome.
That's
So
kind
it's
of
both the independent and community page.
Right.
All right, I don't think we have time to talk about ongoing public outreach and engagement. So do we need another meeting in another 2 weeks?
Yeah, let's get it together, but the bottom line is, we all turn into pumpkins on June 30th. This thing has to be ready. We now have a deadline.
All right, so if we get together in 2 weeks, you'll have a final on this. We'll have a final on,
I'm not available to.
That was school vacation week, right?
oh, is that
Yeah,
still
so
vacation?
we
The
definitely.
15th.
We got-
Oh, okay.
We didn't meet that week because of school vacation.
Perfect.
I can't resist.
All right, so,
You have a meeting, I
They
think.
don't understand.
Yeah, because
Just
I,
select
well,
it.
I can't make that either, I'm gonna be on an airplane, so
Oh.
I can't make any meetings.
Hopefully you're going warm. Yes?
I'll be flying back
Sorry, I want you
to
to.
DC.
he spends a lot of time in DC.
If you're gonna meet on the 15th, I would like you to record the meeting so that I can.
Sure.
And it may be recorded tonight, who knows? But I tell you that they live streamed this last meeting.
You did it?
Yeah, that's, wow, yeah, I got her an email from Nikki that said, oh, I live streamed the
Wait, are they
meeting.
down there as well?
All right, so when do you want to get together? If Ken can't come and Brian can't come, you want to do a Wednesday? You not available
I
on
can't do
Wednesday?
15th.
I can't do the 14th, I have planning board, so does Bob.
14th would be fine.
Well, who's,
You
other, if
throw out
Brian's
the
gonna be
dates?
gone vacation week, who else is?
Well,
I'm going on the
I'm
22nd.
not gonna be available.
Well, we have a quorum on the 15th, right?
I will be here on the 15th. Or I can be here.
What day of the week is that?
It's
Thursday.
It's a Thursday.
I've got February 15th down anyhow.
Yeah, we scheduled it last time.
Yeah, so the 15th is our next meeting.
Oh,
Are we doing it remote or in person?
I think we get a heck of a lot done in person, so
Yes, let's do it in person.
that's my only personal.
I'm just worried about Pam, because she doesn't live in town. So,
Yeah.
Well, Olivia has to come to that meeting too, and she's limited.
so I would, if we're gonna do that, we should do it remote.
Oh, Olivia will be at the next meeting? The
She's
15th?
scheduled to come to the next meeting.
And
We're
Olivia don't
meeting,
live in Bolton.
we're meeting
Yeah, it's
with
too, how far do you have to go?
Worcester. We're meeting with Steph next week, and then Olivia and I are gonna quickly turn that information around and get it to you for review at the meeting on the 15th, so.
Okay,
Okay.
you're right.
I can make the 15th.
Pam should have to have
Move
it.
it up to like 5:30, or, I mean, do people have problems with?
I
Well, my conflict is a 7:30 meeting. So I can come to the first half hour.
Can you come at 5:30?
And I can come earlier than that if I
I
had.
can't. Is it gonna be remote? I could be in a car, like, is that inappropriate? I don't wanna be too informal, but I can have it on in the car. I'll make it happen if it needs to. If it's remote, I can be on the road and have it. I don't mind doing that. I just wanna make sure it's not disrespectful to the group.
You're never disrespectful.
Well, I mean, like,
It's when you take
I'd be
your
in,
eyes
like,
off the
listening
road
mode.
to look
Yeah, well,
at-
I'd probably be more
Then
of
we
a
get nervous.
listener, but if it makes the quorum, I'm happy to do it.
I was just suggesting earlier if we could have it in person, so Pam would already be here. But
Yeah, that's it.
But that means she'll have to come all the way from where does she live?
Olivia?
Olivia.
I don't know where she lives.
Well, she wouldn't have to be here, would she?
She wanted me.
Oh, I see.
And 22nd is too far.
But it seems like the type of stuff we need to accomplish at the next meeting could be done over Zoom, no?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it could be
Yeah.
done.
I agree.
All right, next meeting we gotta do Zoom, obviously.
Okay, so when is it, the 15th?
15th is Zoom.
7 o'clock.
You better remind everybody, otherwise, God help.
Is that a school vacation, did you say?
No,
No.
the 22nd.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And what
next
time do
week
you want
is,
to do that? 7 or more earlier?
7.
7?
school vacation goes from the 22nd to the,
I will.
Thank you.
I will
19th to
see
the
what- I
23rd.
will see whether I can,
As the teacher.
I will see whether I can give you more time than 30 minutes. But if we're recording it, then.
Well, we do it Zoom.
That's true,
Then
that'll
that.
guarantee
Yeah.
recording.
all right, so we got our next meeting. You need anything more?
No, and I just want to emphasize that we will wrap up at the end of June, end of discussion.
Bob's gonna turn into a pumpkin.
I'm running a 16 workshop program in New York, and I gotta come back for this, so I'm gonna disappear.
Okay.
I cannot continue. You know,
Well, our grant, Lauren,
The grant's over.
the grant's over. We have, our product is due.
There's a lot of really good reasons to
Yeah.
meet him by June 30th.
Yeah, we can do it. I mean,
We've
got
certainly done a good.
most of it done. You know, I'd like to have lots more.
Are we all in agreement this does not have to be accepted by town meeting, it has to be
It
accepted
could
by.
be, no,
I think
it
no,
might be.
because
But, I mean, we've got,
I don't know that Ed heard that, Kenny.
Huh?
I don't think Ed heard that.
Ed,
hello.
this does not have to be accepted by town meeting. It has to be accepted by the selectmen, not town meeting.
Interesting.
Well, we have one vote.
Could you imagine?
I'll work with the other two. I'll take care of the other two.
Sorry.
It's really not worth it.
Small town.
Yeah, on July 1st, we can have a, massive party.
Oh, yeah, I think we definitely have to have a party. We had a party after we had the long range planning committee.
Yeah, we did.
We had a good party.
Don will be retired
There's
as
gonna be,
well then.
and,
Oh,
and
that's
Chief
right.
Nelson, there's.
Yes!
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Bolton needs a party.
So who's retiring? John and Bumper.
Yeah.
And who else? Yeah, Don and
And who
Bumper.
else?
That's it.
That's all that I know of.
There's
Those
no
are two
Ah,
pretty big
Lorraine?
positions.
You're
a cumulus pair.
Okay, but,
Sometimes chief leaves.
yeah, I don't think, I think the right, also, she seems pretty ensconced.
Is somebody running for selectman?
I have not heard anything.
I've heard, but I can't remember the guy's name.
I'm out.
As long as it's not DePietro.
Wait,
No, it
motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, wait.
All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Brian wants to go eat. It's these young whippersnappers, food's more important.
So what did we do for 30 days? Are you dying
You
to
need
know?
somebody decent.
No, they've got someone decent, I just can't remember his name.
Oh,
Apparently he's talked to
She turned me
Don.
on, so that you
I'm not sure he's decided to do it, and he's talked to Pam.